So the previous funnel for Viral did 6 figures a month.
Hello and welcome to Funnel Masters, the show where top marketers expose the inner workings of their sales process and share their best takeaway tactics so you can replicate it for yourself. I'm your host, Andy Fletcher, and today's Funnel Master is a self-confessed marketing nerd. He was making over $50,000 a month via Google Ads before his 20th birthday. He scaled not just one but two separate Facebook ads funnels to over $1 million a year, and he has the rare gift of being able to explain how it works to other people. Here to tell you all about it is Funnel Master Wilco De Kreij. Hey Wilco, thanks so much for coming on Funnel Masters. It's great to have you here.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So let's dive straight in then. Tell me what are we going to be talking about today?
What are we going to talk about? Well, for UpViral, we've actually been running a funnel for many years that's been converting really well. But over the years, it stopped converting. So right now, I'm in the trenches of creating a new funnel. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of like how we actually come up with a new funnel from ground zero to create another funnel, which should be doing like the other one, 7 figures easily a year. So that's where we're going to dive in today.
That's brilliant. Have you got any big shiny headline numbers you want to share about previous revenue or units sold or anything?
So the previous funnel for Viral did 6 figures a month. Like I don't like to share exact numbers, and that one has been running for from the moment we started until it wasn't converting anymore for about 4 years, right? So once you get a funnel to convert, it's working really well. For another business of ours, a funnel of mine converted roughly about 40,000 customers into that funnel, and that was for a product at the front end, which was like $200, and there was upsells and things involved. So you can sort of like do the math what that one funnel has been worth, and that's still going strong.
Absolutely,
so
do the maths and put
once you get a funnel to convert, it is really fun. There's like it's not always easy. Like there's work involved up front, but once you get it to convert, it's a beautiful thing.
Cool. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's dive in a bit. What's the product? What are you selling? What's the offer?
Cool. Yeah. So a product is UpViral, and that's actually not the offer. And I think that's something that usually I don't decide on the offer right away. So this first thing I do is like, what's the product? Well, you look at your own business, whatever your product is. Before I decide on the offer, I always look at like the audience, like what's the audience? The second thing I do, right? So literally I just write down, it's super boring, but I write down a list, like who is my target customer, right? And then what are all the problems they have and what are the dreams they have? As simple as that. Like it's super boring maybe, but just like, for example, for UpViral, I would write down like people want to get more leads, want to grow their business, want to have the freedom they want, like anything that they want, right? Basically what I try to do is get as clear as possible of like who I'm actually targeting. And for those who don't know, by the way, UpViral is a tool to basically get more leads using viral referral marketing, right? No need to promote it here, but it's a tool for marketers like I think your audience is as well, right? But it's important.
I'm pretty sure anyone watching this would be interested in more leads to their business. I question why they're watching a show like this if they don't.
You could check out UpViral.com. Hey, but that's just a self-promotion, right? No, but like seriously, like whoever, I think a lot of people skip this part. I think a lot of people think they know their customer, but they don't. And for me, if I write it down and I write down all the problems they would have, like all the things that they run into, like, I can't get my paid ads to work. It's frustrating. My ad accounts get disabled. Or whatever you can think of, because the better picture you will have of your audience, the easier the next steps will be, right? Because then before I decide on the offer, the third thing I do is actually decide on the price point and the funnel mechanic, right? I mean, you guys, you can create any kind of funnel with your tool, right? You can say, VSL funnel, you can go for a book funnel, you can go for, so are you running any funnels at the moment, like yourself at the moment? Like, are you running like into a VSL or like what do most of your customers at the moment do?
So most of our customers, like the ads we run go through to the like convertory sales page and the like
a long form sales page, right?
Yes, yeah, long form sales page, bog standard, like shiny video at the top. We do some webinars with our affiliates, for example. They're getting more and more popular at the moment, but the majority of traffic is just coming through to that like the main convertory.com page.
Yeah. So when I currently what I've been working on for the new funnel is like, again, the first thing I do, so I said, I know what the product is. I know I have a view of what my audience is. The next thing I do is like, what kind of funnel do I, and this is a guess, do I think is going to work? And I do this really, like, there's no certain way of knowing this, but I literally just look at what are others doing in this same market? Like, what are you guys doing, right? Because, you know, it could be a long form sales page. It could be a webinar, an auto webinar funnel. It could be straight to VSL. It could be a book funnel, right? But I need to know what my best bet is going to be, because that's going to decide also what offer I'm going to create. If I think, oh, maybe a low ticket offer, like, you know, a book or something cheap, then I'm going to create a different kind of offer compared to if I think that the webinar is going to, you know, I'm going to do a webinar. And I know a lot of people, all the gurus say, oh, you need to start with your offer. Yes, I somewhat agree, but I think you first also need to know how, like, what's your mechanic that you are comfortable with, that you are confident enough with, because at the end of the day, whatever funnel you're going to create, it's not going to be easy, right? I wish I could say, like, you just throw something online and the very first rough test that you put online is going to be profitable with paid ads, right? That's not the way it is. Like, usually you'll create something and you'll fail a bit and you make some mistakes and then you tweak and you change it. And you're only going to do that if you're confident enough that you'll get it to work. So that's why I like to start from a place of confidence and take my best guess. An example of that is actually for when I created the funnel for UpViral that I mentioned before, that's been running for 4 years. I thought my very first attempt, I went for the 3-part video, right? You probably know it from Jeff Walker.
Yep,
right?
absolutely. We've done that several thousand times now.
A video, another video, and then another video, and then you sell something, right? I was like, it's been working. It's been working for a lot of people, right? Jeff Walker, but like thousands of others. We've been using it for affiliate launches as well. So that's going to be awesome, right? So that's the funnel mechanic I'm going to go for. Ran traffic to it, did not convert at all. People watched the first video, like, I mean, they saw my ad and they didn't know who I was, saw my ad, clicked on it, opted in, watched the video. But because they didn't really know me, they already forgot about me for the next day, right? So they didn't watch the second or the third video, didn't convert. So I'm like, crap, like, that didn't work. What's the next thing? Then different funnel mechanic, right? Long form sales page, like you said. And again, same thing, did not work. I had to opt in because I wanted to get more leads. People opted in and then they got a VSL, like a sales video with a long form sales page, right? Ran traffic, paid traffic to it, did not convert. I mean, I got some sales, but not remotely close to being profitable, right? Third option is, I was like, right, like, what else are people doing? Oh, people are doing a webinar, right? And we started running traffic into an opt-in page, like, hey, you could join my webinar. Started doing a webinar, and all of a sudden, I wasn't profitable, but it was close. I was like, now I know the funnel mechanic. And my point here is that the different mechanics have a big impact. Like, the thing is, as you can see, like, I created first a 3-part video sequence, then a long form sales page, and then a webinar. Like, that's not something like you do like, this is 1 day, another 2 days, another 2 days. Like, that's a period of, like, I don't remember exactly, but like probably like 2 months or so of like focus and dedication, because like all that stuff requires work, right? And there's no way of knowing exactly what's going to work beforehand, but now I try to take my best guess based on what's working for others, right? If I see a lot of people running ads to, for example, VSLs or to low ticket offers, then I think, apparently that's working right now, so I'm going to model that. So long story short, based on what others are doing, I make a decision like, hey, I think this is going to work best. And then I pick a price point based on that. So for example, in this case, what I've decided on, what I believe is a VSL with long form sales. I do believe that works. I've been using auto webinars in the past, but I think auto webinars are not as effective as they once were. People know that they're automated and it's just a sleazy way. It doesn't really fit with who I am today. Back in, years ago, I was fine with it, but as we all mature and grow up, I would say. So right now I decided, right, VSL is going to work. If I'm going for a VSL, like one of the things that, and I think you know this as well, one of the things that we have to be mindful of, even though this is a creative process, it's really a numbers game, right? If you're going to run paid ads into your funnel, for example, right, and you're going to spend a certain amount of money per visitor, it's really a numbers game whether that is potentially going to work. Like, you need to map out how your funnel will look. Like, let's say you send people into an opt-in page, right? Let's say you get a 20% opt-in conversion rate. And sure, you can get it at 50% or 40%, sure. But once you scale up, conversions will go down. So let's say 20% of people will actually enter their email address, right? And then a certain percentage of people is going to actually make a purchase, right? And then that purchase is going to be worth a certain amount of dollars, right? Depending on how you price it. It could be $300, could be $100, could be $50, etc. And then maybe you have an upsell after that, like to increase your average cart value. But what's important to do beforehand, before you even pick your price, is to run those numbers, model them out, because that will immediately, before you even start working on anything, will immediately show the pitfalls that you're going into. Because some people say, like, oh yeah, but I'm going to do this like opt-in here, and then people opt in, and then I'm going to have this massive offer, like a long-form sales page for like $7, right? And then having this upsell of $97. But then when you start working the numbers, then you realize, like, even if it does slightly well, right, you realize that the only way to make that profitable is if you spend traffic for like 20 cents per click, which is not going to happen. Like, you'll pay more than that in a lot of industries, right? So point being is, you want to map out the numbers to see, does it actually make sense? Because the most people who do run cheaper offers on the front end, they usually have a high ticket offer in the back end. So that means that they have a more expensive product on the back end. They just use the funnel to get people in. They're okay if they lose a bit of money, because they got packages of $10, $20, $30,000 on the back end, right? So don't always judge the book by its cover. So I'm not sure if I'm making sense there, but so
you're making plenty of sense. That's why I'm saying nothing. I'm letting you do all the talking. Right. Honestly, this is interesting for me, let alone the audience. And so if I never publish this, I'm glad we did the interview.
Awesome. Well, that's good then. Okay. So to summarize so far, once I know the product I'm selling, I know I've done my audience research, like I have a better view of like who I'm actually going after. And then I decide like what is my best bet in terms of the funnel and in terms of the price point, right? So in this case that I'm currently working on, I'm going for something around $350 a year. This is a recurring product. And I'm going for a VSL funnel, right? So now I know roughly what format I'm going to go for, right? But then the most important, and I think the most trickiest part of this, now I know, I have a rough view of the price point and what funnel mechanic I have, is the big idea of your marketing campaign. And that's, I think, where a lot of people get stuck on, because it's not so much about creating a page, but it's about the creative aspect of what's your messaging going to be. And I'm sure there's marketers who do a much better job at explaining the big idea, some people call it. I know Todd Brown talks a lot about his big idea of like how to come up with that. But really what it means is like, what's the new opportunity that you're going to introduce to people, right? Because if you are, I like to call them ER product. A lot of people mention their products as an ER product. Like, we are faster, we are cheaper, we are better, we are, more customizable. We are anything of that, which is an ER product, like it ends at ER, is boring, because people don't want to switch to something that they already have to something which is slightly better, something slightly faster, something slightly like it. Some people will move and switch and change behavior, but most people won't. But if there's a real new opportunity, then all of a sudden it's, there's a new, like, it gives people a new belief of like why this would work. That's why, like, for example, the diet space, which I don't follow at all, but like, it's an easy example. Like, people were also like, probably there's been all kind of diets, but the reason why there's been new diets, because every time there's a new type of diet, it's like, hey, now you cannot just lose weight with whatever other people have been doing, but now you can do it with berries or whatever. Like, that's the new opportunity. Like, these berries are better for because it's from nature, whatever. Like, there's something completely new, which gives people new confidence. Like, hey, this is actually something that could work, right? For example, like you guys, Convertory, right? If you were to say, we're a landing page builder, or we do it really well, we do it better, right? Like, most people in the online marketing space, they are familiar with all these different tools, right? So, but saying that you are also one of them is like, yes, you'll attract some people, but more likely than not, you will attract more if you position yourself as with some kind of a unique opportunity, a new big idea, which doesn't have to be your overall business message, but for this particular funnel, right? To attract people in, you will need to have some kind of a big idea. Like, it could be, for example, like I know, for example, that Convertory, like in my experience, is probably the fastest, or at least one of the fastest landing page tools there is, right? If you compare that to, I don't know, like ClickFunnels or so, like they take seconds to load, whereas like you can load 5 pages on Convertory while you have loaded one page on ClickFunnels, right?
Absolutely. I think the only ones we lose to are like sort of, people that spend 10 grand per page getting each one hand coded, and it's like, okay, we can't beat them, but anything south of that, and we cream them. So that's been our unique hook since 2016.
Exactly. And when you match that with what people want, right? Like in the previous step, we would have listed like what people actually want. Obviously, people don't want fast pages. Like people also don't want to have a drill. They want to have the hole in the wall. In this case, people want to have, more profitability or like more freedom in their business or whatever that is. But like we know, you and I know that conversions actually go up the faster the page loads. Like you would not believe how often I've clicked on a Facebook ad and I just already backed out because it took too long to load, right? I'm fast. I like to work fast, and I don't have the patience to wait around for a page to load. So it needs to be fast, right? And one, like there's tons of research. If a page is fast, then like conversions go up the longer it takes for a page to load. So point being is that could be that could be the foundation of a big idea, right? And you wouldn't just say like, hey, our pages are faster, right? But the big idea is more about presenting it as a new opportunity, right? Like linking it to what they really want. So instead of saying, hey, we're really fast, it could be something along the lines of, I don't know, like we're going to show you how to increase your conversion rates without changing anything on your pages, right? Like, because they can literally have the same page, right? This is an example. I'm not saying that's the best. Usually it takes time.
I mean, I've done this exact demo on webinars. So like, I'm right there with you.
Exactly.
Like, we've got I have the slides next to each other and it's like, these are the two pages we compared, see if you can spot the difference between them. And then obviously there's no difference. Like the difference is one loads faster, but it makes for good engagement on the webinar because it gets people going, wait, what is different? Why would that one load faster? What am I missing? That's when they make the connection.
Yeah, and this part, like coming up with that big idea is in my experience the hardest. But also the most important part of creating a funnel that's going to convert, right? Because it's really about coming up with a new opportunity for people to come into your world, to become a customer of yours. Like they already have their set of beliefs, right? And you're going to present them with a new, better way to solve the problem, but in a new, unique way, right? And that doesn't mean you have to change your product. It doesn't mean you have to, but like you have to find this unique angle that other people aren't talking about. And you don't even have to be the first in the world to talk about it, because some people think like, oh, I need, like everyone is already talking about something. That doesn't matter as long as your avatar, the people who are in your audience, they don't know about it yet. There could be like, there's plenty of, there are probably plenty of other tools that are businesses or whatever that make the same claim, but like they're maybe not as loud or they don't advertise to your target audience. As long as you present a new opportunity, a new big idea. And that's really, I think again, the most difficult and the most important part, because that big idea is going to decide how easy, like if you're going to run ads, for example, how easy it is to pull people into your world, right? How people are going to engage on your whatever funnel mechanism is, like how people are going to engage on your webinar, like whether they think, oh wow, this is a new way of doing it, I need to get this, or is it just like, again, slightly better, slightly an improvement, and they're like, cool, like all your conversions will go up if you hit the right big idea. Definitely take some time. And my key point of advice here, which goes for this whole setup here to create a new funnel, is before you even get started, set a deadline. And I actually I'm fortunate to have a team to work alongside with me. And I actually make sure they keep me accountable. I literally say like, hey, this will have to go live by this and this date, right? Because I know that if I wouldn't, I would spend a crazy amount of time on this step alone, because the frustrating thing is there is no right answer. The only right answer is to pick your best guess and just go for it. Because if you try to do it perfect, you can spend weeks thinking about it, and all you're going to do is like think and tweak, but you still don't know, because the market.
Right, and you can't be wrong all the time. You don't put it out there. You can't be wrong. And that's I think that's the bit everyone loves, is like, because until you test it, until you run some traffic, until you do it, you're never wrong. You're just thinking of more ideas.
Exactly.
I'm right there with you. Like I've done all kinds of things. As you say, like having a team that all has to like sync up and can hold me accountable is excellent. In the past, when it was just me, I've done things like I've pledged money to charity, where it's like, if I don't have this thing out this door by this point, I am going to donate a painful amount of money to charity. And I always end up making a donation anyway, but it's like I don't have to donate the painful amount if I get it done by the deadline. And that's motivating.
That is motivating. Yes, that works really well. It's super important. I think, especially when I was starting out, I didn't do that as much, and that's why things like this just took a long time. And what I now realize is that, especially when creating a funnel, is that it's all about getting something out as soon as possible and get some insights from that, right? I'll share some tips on how to get quick insights, or at least how I've done it, to make sure you can draw quicker results without having to spend crazy amounts of time building everything out. So So far we've done a research, which is actually something that can do quick, a bit about your audience. We decide on the price point and like what funnel we think is going to work. And then we thought about like, what's the big idea is going to be, right? Then I actually decide, and this is what you already mentioned, what is the actual offer, right? And the reason why I only do this after that is because now that I have the big idea, then we're going to package an offer around it, right? Because if the big idea is, let's say it's all about the speed or whatever, right? Let's say we're selling convertery. Like your product doesn't have to be the offer. The offer can be more than just your product, right? And the way I usually approach the offer is that it starts with the actual product that I have to sell. Like for me, UpViral, for you, convertery, for example. But then I list down all the reasons why would people not buy? What are all the objections, right? For example, someone might say like, hey, it's great that convertery is so super fast and it would increase conversions, but what would help if I had any traffic to begin with, because I don't have any traffic, so I don't know how to get started, right? That's an objection. It's a fair one as well, right? So then I'll, like, all the main concerns, the main objections, I try to overcome them with added bonuses, right? So this could be, for example, where you're going to share a like where you create a training program or something that will help people drive traffic, right? Like, so like, hey, you don't know how to drive traffic, don't worry, because we actually, in this offer, we actually included that as well, like our top 5 traffic strategy, like something along those lines, right? And that's just maybe a terrible example, but like all the main objections that people have, I try to overcome them with bonuses. Like, oh, but I'm not technical enough, I don't have time. Don't worry, because like it comes with all these templates. You don't have to create everything from scratch. It's already like a lot of pages are in there. You just need to change it. But I don't know what copy to put on my page. Well, don't worry, because like we actually include like a training or like a swipe file of like our top converting opt-in page, whatever. Like, so you cancel or you overcome all those objections with bonuses, and that will create your offer, right? So I don't just add bonuses for the sake of adding bonuses. They're always to overcome an objection.
I think that's a bit that gets missed a lot. Is it's not just a bonus to have a bonus. It's a bonus to solve a sales objection. It's like, exactly. How do I fix a reason not to buy this? And I think this ties in really well with your previous point about like figuring out who the customer is. And because I think certainly it's true for me. I think it's true of a lot of people in the digital marketing space. We get a little bit myopic, where we're like, the target customer is fairly similar. We're often all selling to small businesses. And my mind was blown when I was chatting to my partner, Sarah, did work for a Fortune 500 company. She was consulting in one of their innovation divisions, and I met her boss there, this really clever strategy guy called Rod. And we were talking about business, and he was like, oh, how do you run your, like, where do you run your support desk from? I've got to set up this new team, and I know you know all about digital tools. I showed him, like, at the time we were using Zendesk. I showed it to him and whatever. And I was expecting him to do the usual like internet marketer thing of going, oh, that's so expensive. And he took one look at it and was like, it's really cheap. I don't know if I can buy that. Like, I guess if I buy 10 seats and pay up front annually or do a 3-year contract, maybe I can get a purchase order for that. And like, in that moment, my mind was blown, because it was like, wait, your objection is it's too cheap. Wow. Like, who's ever said that? And he was like, literally at the company, I can't say the name, they're not like, they just cannot buy things below a certain thing. In the end, like, he really wanted a convertery account, and in the end he had to expense it on his credit card as food, because that was the only way the company would let him buy it.
You wouldn't know that until you like actually talk to them and speak to them and get to know your audience, right?
So yeah, there's some like really off the wall sales objections.
That's mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing. And that's exactly like, and that's why you need to get, like, the better you understand your audience, the better, like that's only when these kind of things come up, right? Like, or for example, like, obviously that's an extreme one. Like, I'd love to have that problem, by the way.
I know, wouldn't we all?
Yeah, but maybe let's say you're also like, part of your audience, they have a team, right? And maybe one of their objections is like, oh, this is complicated. Like, how do I get this to my team? Like, a bonus could be, hey, you get X seats. Maybe that's already included. I actually don't know. You get X seats for your team, or for example, hey, you get all the SOPs to actually, so they, in their mind, it's not like, hey, I'm buying this product and now I have to do it all myself. I'm buying this product as a bonus. Like, I can just literally give that to my team, right? And that's a problem solved. And that, again, that's an example. And that's why it's so important to know your audience. And it's actually a good way to actually figure out those objections as well, which actually comes in the next step that I do. Because all right, so now we've done our research, we come up with a price point, we know what kind of funnel we're going, we know the rough big idea, and we decided on the offer, like what's going to be included, right? And this is all, doesn't have to be perfect, but take your best guess. Then what I'd like to do is, I don't want to like create a full funnel, spend ages working on it, all the emails, all the copy, all the videos, everything, make everything perfect, give it out there, and then see that it's actually not working. So what I like to do is do it as MVP as possible, as minimum as possible. And depending on what price point you're at, let's say, like this wouldn't make sense if you go for like a $7 book, for example, but let's say you're going for a couple $100 onwards, right? For like an information product or software or whatever that would be, but from a couple $100, it starts to make sense. I like to do a webinar, although I personally hate webinars, but the thing is that it really is the fastest way to get feedback in and to get an initial idea on an idea, like whether it actually works. And the way I do it, I'm actually fortunate because over time I build up an email list. So I have people that already follow me, that already have that audience. And what I then do, I've done it multiple times, where I cut my list up in 4 quarters. I randomly assign them in 4 different buckets, right? And that allows me to run 4 different webinars and actually compare them side by side. And again, because I know this is something that can take ages, I usually pick the date of the webinar. I send out the invite for the webinar. Hey, we're doing a presentation on, and then I'll have a headline based on that big idea, like how to get a certain outcome without a certain problem. But it's around that big idea. And usually I send out the invite, but I don't have the actual presentation yet. And pretty much not even pretty much, every single time it was like a last minute job to get the slides done. Like I always do my webinars at my 4 p.m. Gives me the full day, and usually the day before as well, to create the slides. They're never perfect, they're never done. I always feel I'm behind, but I've been able to then create the best I can in that period of time and throw it out, right? Have that offer, have that training on there. But then I'm only burned through the first quarter of my audience, right? So the first quarter has seen it. Then usually I do it once a week, because doing it more often is too intense for me. I'm not as outgoing as some people think I am. So once a week is the max for me. So next week I'll do it again, and again I'll tweak the presentation. I'll change the stories I use, like based on the feedback I get, because every time I do a webinar, people will ask me questions. Like we just spoke about the objections. People will ask you those things on the chat because it's live, and you can literally see what they're asking. Like, hey, do you also have split payment? Hey, do you also explain how do you drive traffic? Hey, do you also have template? Like they'll literally ask you that, and you can obviously mention that on the call. Like, is there anyone have any questions? Let me know. So next time you overcome that, you already answer those questions. And this is literally what I've done for that auto webinar that I've been running for years as well. I literally did that webinar 4 times, right? And I just compared which one actually converted the best. And every single time it was slightly better. I think the 3rd one was the better. The 4th one actually was lower. And that 3rd one I turned into the auto webinar. And it doesn't have to be a webinar. You can then also take the same concept and put that in a VSL but it's about doing a quick test to get the message out without all the work involved up front, basically. So as MVP as it can actually be. And only then you actually, like I personally, that's my recommendation, I actually start working on, creating a funnel for an opt-in page and yada, yada, all the things that go into creating a funnel. And you start driving traffic. And in my experience, I could be just my lack of experience, to be honest. But in my experience, every single time when I drive traffic to a paid ads funnel, even my best ones, it always starts not profitable. Always. Like, I'm sure some people are like super gifted and they're able to like, hey, my first test is possible. No, for me, it's never the case.
Super lucky, not super gifted.
Yeah, could be. Like for me, from like what I can tell, if it's around, like if I at least get like 60% back of my ad spend initially, like then I know, without any optimization, then we can get that to be profitable, right? That's sort of like my feeling. 60-70% is like the minimum, because it's like, hey, if the minimum version is already, every dollar I put in gets 70 cents back. That's a pretty good start without, really dialing in everything in. And only then it starts about either, optimizing, gathering data, or going back to a couple steps before. Like I said initially, like I started out with a 3-part video sequence like earlier on, that completely bombed. So I knew, right, like it's frustrating, but you then start over, right? Create a new funnel, right? Scratch that. So yes, it can be painful. It can be, no, wait, let's put it differently. It is painful. It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it is, I would have never thought it would be that rewarding for such a long time. Like I thought, I was hoping to get it to work at that point. I was like, yes, finally got it to work. But I would have never thought, like the funnels that I got to work, that they would be yielding so much profit for like years and years. And I think that is something that,
I mean, you ran that UpViral ad for a long time, didn't you?
for more than 4 years, without a lot of change. And between had, obviously, sometimes we run new ads, and even a lot of the ads we were able to just, we sometimes we pause an ad for a while and then we run another one. And then if that one got sort of like fatigue, like after the market has seen it, then we were able to just use the old ad again because people hadn't seen that one for a while. So we've been running the same ads in the same funnel for a super long time. And that really surprised me, and to be honest. And the same thing for another business of ours, same thing there, like, and that's been still been running, and we've been running that since 2017. Like, it is crazy, like literally crazy. So yeah, it's hard work, but it's more than 10 times definitely worth it. So
excellent. Okay, so I mean, I know you're in the process of like developing the current like iteration of the funnel. So feel free to answer this about like the upcoming one or about the previous one. What's the most interesting thing you've discovered while building either the current funnel or the previous iteration of it?
The most interesting thing, in terms of any specifics?
Either marketing results or something you tried and you were like, I don't think this is going to work, but I want to test it out, and then it did, or anything like that.
I got one actually, which I think is interesting. We actually, like, I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I like to run split tests as well. And one of the things that I found, which was interesting, was what I call a long form opt-in page, right? So we all know if you're trying to get an opt-in, usually like it's like a headline with some promise, maybe a sub headline. There's the call to action, maybe some social proof, right? And usually they're quite short. There's not a lot you can do on an opt-in page because it has literally one goal, is to get you to enter your email address, right? And then you move into the rest of the funnel. Cool. So at some point, what I tried is like, what if I make it a long form copy? And what that means, like, I still have the same format as you see on many different funnels, right? Headline, maybe a subheadline, call to action, some social proof. And then I left some blank space because I didn't want people to be confused. Like if they wanted to opt in right away, awesome. But for those who then scroll down, if they would want that, then there was basically a long form opt-in copy. And it's really just similar as a sales copy, where it's really like, I wrote an engaging story of like the problem that we did, and then how I discovered a solution. The social proof to make sure they know I'm the authority, like that the proof that I've done that, and maybe some been publicized on entrepreneur.com or like stuff like that, right? It's really like as if I'm selling something, but all I'm selling is access to like enter your email address, enter your email address to continue in the funnel. And I started running some tests, and also like I like to use things like Hotjar as well. That's hotjar.com, where you can see like heat maps. So when people can actually like, where do people click, how far do people scroll? And surprisingly, like a lot of people scroll all the way down, right? And through that story, I made sure that even if they would just skim the headlines, it would still make sense, right? Because even though it's a long form page, most people are not going to read, or at least I like to believe so. Maybe some will. But like people went through that, and in between there were a couple of call to actions, right? And altogether, that opt-in page converted pretty much the same as the short one. So not really a big win there, right? It's a lot of effort for like, not a lot of gain. But the funny thing was, everything, the numbers after that, like after on the webinar, the conversions went up if I had the long form page. And my belief is that probably those who were like the short page, it's like, all right, quick opt-in, but they weren't as dedicated, they're not as informed. Whereas those who scrolled through and saw the whole backstory of me and like the proof, and like they were probably more sold on that concept and on the big idea, to then like, hi, like I really want to learn, I really want to stick to this webinar, right? And that was something that I found that I was really amazed by, and I don't see a lot of people using it, to be honest.
I think it's becoming a lot more prevalent. Like, it seems like Facebook has put a bit of a, like, their foot down on just straight up squeeze pages.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing more and more of almost exactly what you've described. It's like standard squeeze page and then long form copy, just because Facebook are like, no, you can't have such a small page for a landing page.
And another split test, which is good for your audience as well. Let's say people, you have that, right? Or any other page where you sell something or you want people to take action. But let's be real, a lot of people are going to be on their mobile, right? That's the way it is. Cool. The thing is, if you scroll down on the page, like on desktop, it's easy. Like you go to the page, you read through all these points, and it's at some point during the copy, you decide this is worth my time, right? And you just like, that's how I operate. I just scroll up and click the call to action button. Like I go back to like, I know where the call to action is. It's not like I have to forcefully go through the whole page. But on mobile, what that would be is like, hey, I've watched it, right? I'm like going to the page. And at some point I'm like, hey, I really want to go for like, I need to scroll all the way up, which is hard, right? So we actually run a test that on mobile, as soon as they're on the page and they scroll down, initially it wouldn't show just yet, but as soon as they scroll down, at the very bottom, there's a small call to action button, like floating on top of it, right? Like continuously on the screen. So at any point that they say like, hey, I'm committed to actually go to the next step, they can click that button, and we saw that increase conversion rates as well. So I think that's a good quick tip.
You remember how much it increased it by?
I really
I'm a number data nerd as well. You know you're going to get these questions from me.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know it was not dramatically high, but every increase is an increase, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when it comes to ad dollars, like it's all a win.
Yeah.
Right, let's go in the other direction. What was the biggest mistake you've made?
How much time do we have, you say?
Biggest, top one, not the list.
Biggest in terms of funnels. I would say probably like creating a full funnel, go all in, creating all the emails in, only to see like it just does not convert, right? Like hire the copywriters, have designers, make it beautiful, like everything, the whole 9 yards, taking a couple of months from A to Z. And then basically having to bin it because like it was not converting at all because I didn't go through the proper, like, you know, like I just said, like test it out with an MVP, do some quick tests to get some insights. That's probably the biggest mistake. If I'm thinking if there's any concrete mistakes, but like another smaller mistake, but definitely annoying impact is to create your sales page or like funnel or whatever you'd create and forget about certain rules from, for example, Facebook, right? So I added in some claims with a time-based stuff as well, like how a certain customer got X results in X amount of weeks, right? Obviously a big red flag. But when I write the copy myself, when I'm a terrible writer, but when I do, I try to keep that into account. But I obviously, because I'm not a good writer and because I'm not native English, I also hire copywriters. I'd like to help me flesh these pages out. And they don't always follow those rules. And I don't always think about changing that. So it happened a couple of times where we ran traffic to a page like that. And obviously with good reason, Facebook disabled the ad account. So that is obviously like one of those things that you always need to take into account when you're creating something and you're planning to drive traffic is to make sure you are familiar with all the rules. And also I got a quick hack there. Like I love the shortcuts. Facebook has the worst support ever. You cannot call them, right? There's no way. However, if you open a Google Ads account, Google, you can. Obviously, their rules are slightly different, but I've had multiple times where Google was like, they didn't approve a certain landing page. You can actually call them. They will walk you through like, hey, this is why we're not allowing it. And you literally, you get the information that you need to like, hey, this is what I need to change.
It's so much better, isn't it? Because they'll tell you. And it's like, because I think I don't really understand the Facebook policy where it's like, oh, we can't tell people because they'll try and game the system. It's like, most of us don't want to game the system. We just want to know what you don't want us to do.
Exactly.
And it's like the weird, like automatic restrictions, like automated emails. When I got mine banned a while ago, I got the automated email warning me 6 months after they banned me. And it's like, well, if you'd send that even slightly in advance, I could have just not done the thing you didn't like.
Yeah.
But no,
at one point, because just to prove the point how crazy things are at Facebook, at one point, one of my, like most ad accounts I was able to get back because we didn't do anything that shady. And there's some ways how you can increase the odds, right? One of the ad accounts, I just did not get it back, right? So then another ad account got disabled where we had multiple. And I did a appeal like you always do. And then he was like right away, oh yeah, sure, our mistake, I'll re-enable it for you. I was like, huh, that was easy, right? So let me, while the communication is open, let me ask about that old ad account, which was been closed, banned for like months, right? I'm like, hey, could you please look into this ad account as well? Here's the ID number. And he said, oh, but that account is actually closed from your end. You can re-enable it. And I checked, like it was literally banned, like it said there. So I played dumb, like, huh, I can't really find it. Could you do it for me? She's like, sure, no problem. I'm like, what's this? Right? And then I tried it for another account, but like that didn't work. Like it was a one-time lucky shot, but that was hilarious, just as a complete side note.
That's amazing. That's totally going to be one of the pull-out things we do for this. Okay, so where's the UpViral funnel going next? What have you got planned for it?
Cool. So where we're at now is I did some initial tests, and then, like I said, I had a final deadline. And what we did, I created the VSL for that, and literally a few days ago, like early this week, as we are recording it, I promoted that to our email list to get initial feedback on it. We actually got really good feedback. Unfortunately, it wasn't converting as well as I was hoping, but we did collect a lot of data. So what we did is we ran a very split test on the headline to see what actually got their interest. We checked how far people watch into the video, like to see, and how far, if they watch this to a certain point, what the conversion rate is at that point. So now we know that if they do watch the video, they will buy a lot. But the problem is most people stopped watching the video. So now we know, right, the concept is all right, but the first couple minutes of that VSL, we probably need to test that out. So next thing what we're going to do is even though it wasn't converting as great, I'm still, again, because I want to go fast, I'm going to record some quick ads on my phone as easy as possible to drive initial traffic into this funnel to see where it's at this point. And then most likely we're going to find that still is like the video is not going to convert. So what I'll do is that VSL will literally put that as an ad, right? We'll just use it. But what I'm going to do is I'm recording a couple different introductions, like the first minute or so, to see on Facebook what the watch rate is, like, because most people only, like, the first 10 seconds will be the most important factor, right? Just to see, like, hey, how should we start to hook people into keep on watching the video? Because at the end of the day, every funnel is like a breakdown of steps, right? It's not like people come in and come out at the other end. Like in this case, like people would decide whether they would want to watch. If they start watching, do they keep on watching? So what do we need to do in the beginning to keep them hooked until the end, right? Like, should we have an open loop? Should we create a big claim? Like, we'll try out different things. So it's really like an iterative process of, like, improving every step of the way in a way. Once we improve that part of the video, then we'll start to flash out more of the actual funnel. Like, then, because right now there's no follow-up emails, there's no retargeting ad, for example. But at the end of the day, people are not just going to buy like from an ad. They see it once, they jump in and they're going to buy, at least not at this price point. So yeah, there's still work ahead. Because I also know that most likely, there's going to be big changes needed. Not every funnel is going to work. I actually already on the sidelines, we're working on a different funnel, so that I have two eggs in the basket instead of just one, just to increase the odds of hitting a
second UpViral funnel, or a funnel for a different product?
Yes, a viral funnel, but that one. Because I don't want to have two competing funnels, right? Ideally, they're both going to be working, but at the very least one. So the one I'm currently focusing on myself is straight into a viral. The other funnel is going to be an information product on the front with some upsells, and then they'll get into a viral. So it's very much related, but we grab them at a different part of the buying journey, basically. But that I would not recommend that to anyone, because I'm lucky enough to have already some people on the team that are very skilled and like good copywriters, so they're able to work on that while I'm focusing on this funnel. They're fleshing out that funnel, and I come in and record the videos and all that. So that's just to increase the odds of finding a winner. If I wouldn't have that team, then I would just focus on one first, right? And if it's above, again, if my initial test would be at least 60-70% profitable, or like still losing money, but like $1 gets me 60-70 cents, I would keep on focusing on this funnel. If it would be less than that, then I would all right, let's face facts. This one is not the winner. Then I would probably take my lessons and then start in that second funnel, because and all of this obviously assumes that if you wanted to get to work with paid ads, right? There's many other formats, right? Because if you, for example, rely on content marketing, right? You have a blog and you send traffic from your blog into the funnel, for example, or you have a Facebook group and you send, like, then it's not so much about you need to have the highest conversion. Like obviously higher is better, but there's no hard cost against it. Like with paid ads, it's literally like if you're below the threshold, you're losing money. But if you have free traffic, then anything is good. So it's different in that case. But I'm talking about creating a funnel to scale up with paid ads.
Excellent. Okay, that brings us on to the next section of the show, which is the takeaway tactic. So on this, we ask all our guests to share something like the most actionable tactic. So something people can go and do to their funnels right now. It doesn't have to work for absolutely everyone, but something ideally quite specific, quite actionable, something they can go and do, apply to their copy, apply to their funnels, apply to their like ad process, something they can go away and do straight away and boost their conversions, improve their results. What can someone listening go and do tomorrow?
Well, I had two already in mind, but I already shared those two. One was the long form opt-in page, and the one was the floating call to action on mobile. But actually, I have a third one, which we did a split test on. Like, this is not for everything. This is for if you have a VSL or like a video sales page, right, with like a long form sales page below. You've probably seen many of them. You've probably seen like some will have like the video and then the full sales page below, right? Whereas others, they show the video and there's nothing below, but only if you watch the video up to a certain point, everything appears, right? So we actually ran a test between those two variations and a third variation, which is, and originally you just show the VSL, right? There's the video sales video, but like, because I don't want them to see that there's an actual offer. Like at that point, I want people to think like, hey, it's an educational video, like there's something to learn. Otherwise, people are not even going to watch because like it's a freaking ad, like it's a sales video. So people are going to watch it as an educational video. But if they're anything like me, I don't want to wait around. Like I don't want to see that whole video before I can actually like. I want to get right to the chase. And like, all right, hit me. What's the offer? And I'll make a decision right away to buy. So what we did is I run a split test between variation 1, video with the whole page visible right away. It's variation 2. Just the video, and after a certain amount of time, we display everything. And the third variation is actually the same as the second, like video, and after a certain amount of time, the rest of the page appears. But right below the video, we had a simple, like small text, like not a big call to action button, but like a small text, clickable link, saying something along the lines of like, if you wanna get more information, click here, something along those lines. Like not sleazy, not salesy, more like, hey, if you want, you could. If they would click that, it would also show the whole page, right? But if they wouldn't click, they just watch the video, it will only show the page after a certain amount of time. And that third variation outperformed the other two like by quite a bit, actually. Again, I don't know the exact numbers anymore because that was the beginning of the funnel when we created it, and that funnel has been running for years and years with that format in place. But if you're looking for a quick thing to test for anyone who has a VSL funnel and with a long form sales page, try out that variation. So hide the whole page, unhide it after a certain amount of seconds, but also have a small text link below the video so that people, if they want, immediately they can just click and unhide the whole page. And just, for the fast buyers who want, and this was for a product which was around $200 to give you a bit of an idea of like price point. It could be different on something that's more expensive. For example, that would be my guess. So that's a practical tip that won in our split test earlier on.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing everything else on this call. And also, thank you very much for letting us include the UpViral funnel simulation in Simulatory when we release it. Hopefully, by the time we do so in November, we'll even have some more up-to-date numbers. I hope the funnel's a raving success. Have you got any final thoughts to share before we finish up?
So yeah, one thing to definitely on that note to not forget is, and I think a lot of people think too much about like the creative part, like, or the funnel, but like it's really a numbers game. So I really encourage you to do a simulation like you're just talking about, to really run your numbers, because otherwise you just start building something which is set up to fail. So before you start building, run those numbers, right? Play around with the numbers and think like, what is realistic? If you don't know what realistic is, ask some people like, hey, what do you have? Like, how many people, what percentage of people opt into your opt-in, right? Like what percentage of people show up to your webinar? Because usually those numbers are pretty much the same. Like 30% of people might show up to a webinar from all those who sign up. Like there's certain baselines that you can sort of like take from other people in your market. If you don't know anyone, maybe ask in a Facebook group, but run those numbers, run those simulations, because that will save you so much time versus first building it all out, spending all time creating everything, driving traffic, and then realizing like, oh, that actually does not make any sense. So highly recommend to run those numbers beforehand. Excellent.
And I didn't even pay Wilco to say that. Thank you very much for today, Wilco.
Wait, you didn't?
No. The check bounced, man.
I'll scratch that then.
Yeah, don't run a simulation. Don't buy Simulactivity. Our borrow's not going.
Spend 3 months building it out, and
absolutely.
It's way better than spending because what's the fun in like doing a quick calculation if you can spend 3 months building it and then still having the same outcome?
Thank you very much, Wilco. It's been great to have you on today. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Happy to help.
Thanks for watching Funnel Masters. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Coming up next on Funnel Masters.
$117,273 on ads, revenue $221,095, profit $103,822. This month, OTO1 is converting at 64%. Last month it was 54%, June 52%. I think the biggest thing is the quality of the product, and does it really solve a problem that the user has, or does it provide a powerful solution? We were doing between 3 and 7 grand a day in profit just through Facebook ads. And I think a good product's got to do one of those two things. It's got to either solve a painful problem or provide the solution to a powerful desire that people have.